Pro fighter gamers. Last time we looked at input schema, I talked about how the two predominant blocking schemes in fighting games are not very good ludonarrative buttons, because they do not match our intuitive sense of how to fight. With that said, the intuitive way to fight is terrible when compared to trained fighters. The characters in fighting games are meant to be trained in combat sports, meant to be professionals and masters. So let's invent some schema that mimics the defensive techniques of real fighters. In real fights, fighters are primarily dodging and setting up glancing blows to defend, intercepting more than running, deflecting more than blocking. So now let's make some new schema for button inputs that could help us players feel more like the professional in-game. Let's start by responding to that intuitive habit of human fighting to grab a person around the torso. To stop a takedown, pro fighters do what's called a sprawl, shooting your hips and legs backwards, forming a pyramid with the opponent's body. This keeps the opponent from gaining the leverage needed for a takedown, while ideally putting your weight on top of the opponent, allowing you to take them down from an advantageous position, should you want to. To sprawl in a fighting game, we could, like a real fighter's legs, shoot the sticks outward to the left and right to sprawl, setting up this move to counter an opponent's grab. Now let's look at Muay Thai. Muay Thai is known for fast and powerful roundhouse kicks, as well as the 8-limb fighting philosophy that incorporates elbows and knees as much as fists and feet. What people don't think about is that Muay Thai practitioners need to think about defending against those same strikes. They do so with a stance that involves squaring up, almost marching in place, high-kneed footwork, keeping them ready to pull up a knee, connecting it with their elbow and vertical forearm. This creates a kind of vertical wall that causes other Muay Thai fighters' elbows and kicks to become glancing blows away from the body. So let's turn this into an input schema. For action games, one stick down and one stick up to create a Muay Thai block at high and middle, while low attacks are dodged entirely. For games with a dedicated guard button, pressing up and guard could deliver the same feeling. Or in a game like Tekken where buttons are mapped to limbs, pressing the same side arm and leg button together could do the same. Feel free to add the up direction as well. High input complexity should always equal higher reward, in my opinion. Speaking of complexity, let's gamify the boxer's weave. Mid-range and outboxers master the ability to slip punches using the duck and weave technique. By bowing in a very short U-shaped pattern, a skilled boxer can always keep their head outside the line of fire, even as an opponent thinks they are adjusting their target. A well-placed weave keeps your opponent punching the air where your head used to be. Now, that's a pretty persistent movement-heavy stance that boxers use, rather than just holding a block button like Dante in Devil May Cry 5. We could hold L1, R1 to mimic raising your guard, then roll both sticks in a U-shaped pattern in a consistent rhythm to the left and right. This could give the player the ability to dodge high and middle attacks without much delay between their opportunities to counter at the cost of a high skill floor to actually execute the movement. Let's also talk catch wrestling. It is a grappling sport that starts with kickboxing, with a focus on catching strikes and twisting them into takedowns. In games with dedicated kick buttons, just like the Just Guard, pressing forward and kick at the right time to parry an opponent's kick could instead translate to a grab counter. just like a Soul Calibur Just Guard, but adds complexity if you stack it on top of a game with a Just Guard to parry for other attacks already. In 3D fighting games, why not switch a double tap on the D-pad to step sideways with a quarter circle motion instead to mimic the character's own semicircular movement around the opponent? For even a static block, why not hold down two buttons, both the L and R buttons, to mimic the feeling of turtling up when defending like an inboxer? There is so much potential for creating ludonarrative button inputs if you just take a moment to think about what controls could feel like and how they could translate to the player's own imagination. However, would changes to the input schema like these necessarily improve fighting games? No, absolutely not. Overall, the experience of a game is a full package. Striving for realism, or the subjective perception of realism, isn't on its own merit objectively better art. It won't always translate into a better game. But details like these can get lost in the weeds. Being inventive and trying new ways to use a controller can directly translate into innovating within a genre or inventing a whole new genre from a shared history. One need never copy the past simply for the sake of copying it. Be bold, try something different, and stay true.